Blade. Welcome to my review of Blade, guys. Now we're getting on to the good stuff. Blade came out in 1998, and it stars, of course, Wesley Snipes as a titular character. And Blade came out at a very interesting time where comic book movies were considered to be box office poison, with movies like Batman and Robin, Spawn, and whatever Steel was. And when it comes to Marvel movies, we have movies like Howard the Duck, The Night of Captain America, and the unreleased Fantastic Four film. And when this movie came out, it was a very interesting time. Like I said, comic book movies weren't like considered to be the big blockbusters like considered now, with movies like Black Panther and Captain America Civil War and Deadpool. When this movie came out, not only that a lot of people didn't know this was a comic book movie, a lot of people really didn't know what to expect with this movie. This was a very, very risky move with New Line Cinema and Wesley Snipes, and this movie exceeded all expectation in 1998. And rewatch this movie now with fresh eyes because I haven't seen this movie in years. This movie is still pretty darn good 20 years later. However, this isn't a flawless movie. Blade isn't a perfect film. It's not the best movie ever made, but still 20 years later, when it comes to movies like this, you look at them now and you're like, that doesn't hold up very well. Like, that doesn't look right, even from then and now. When it comes to movies like this, I can understand, but still, it's a flaw for me. But let's get into some of the good stuff in this film. I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. Wesley Snipes is Blade. Wesley Snipes made this character his own, just like how Hugh Jackman made Wolverine his own, just like Robert Downey Jr. made Iron Man his own, just like Heath Ledger made the Joker his own. Wesley Snipes made Blade his own. Blade was a BA. The first time you see him in this blood rave with all these vampires in this club, which, by the way, perfect way to start a movie like this. I mean, wow, when this guy is lured to the club with his supposed girlfriend, played by Tracy Lord, you find out that he's in a blood rave filled with vampires, and then you get to see Blade. It looks all cool and stuff. I love how Wesley Snipes, how he portrayed Blade, that he portrayed him as this mysterious, intimidating vampire hunter who is considered to be a daywalker because Blade is half human and half vampire. And when you first see him, you see him in his leather jacket, sunshades. He gives this intimidating and mysterious vibe about him that he could immediately kick your butt like Batman. But at the same time, Blade has this cool swagger and charisma to him, which makes the character a lot more interesting. And that's why I said that Wesley Snipes made Blade his own. I also have to mention the bonding between Blade and Whistler, played by Chris Christopherson, who, from time to time, he injects the serum into Blade so Blade won't have a thirst for blood, so he won't go full vampire. That part about Blade also makes him interesting, and Whistler's backstory is also interesting as well because he was younger. He had a very tragic and very somber backstory where he saw from his very own eyes his family being killed by vampires. So would Blade have a similar backstory like that, his mother being bit by a vampire at birth, and with Whistler family being killed by vampires? Those two really had great chemistry, and those two really connected from there, and that what makes their relationship work very, very well. And Whistler is a cool character too. Love Whistler. We also get introduced to Karen, played by Nobusha Wright, and her character, who might be one of my favorite and most underrated comic book characters, because that she is actually not the love interest. She is just an ordinary doctor, just being put into the middle of all this crazy vampire-ness, and she had to get her way out of this with the help along with Blade, and she's actually very helpful and very unique, and she doesn't have to be the love interest just because she's a female. And that, when I saw this the other night, I saw this movie on Blu-ray, watched it on Blu-ray. Looks pretty cool on Blu-ray, by the way, but I watched it and I'm like, wow, she's not the love interest. Like, her and Blade doesn't hook up at the end. I'm like, wow, that is very unique from any comic book movie nowadays. Like, usually we have a female in a comic book movie, and the main protagonist, automatically they have to hook up, because, but What Blade did that, Blade was all like, F that. That was like, wow, I gotta give kudos to Blade. Like, that was very, very unique. And like I said, 20 years later, this movie still holds up. And compared to the comic book movies now, this is very unique and very different. The action scenes are actually one of my favorite parts about this movie. And since Wesley Snipes is a real life martial artist, it makes the action scenes a whole lot better and a lot more enjoyable. Like, this dude, like, he killed it in every single scene. No pun intended. I just love the way when Blade killed the vampire, they burned into debris and you see the skulls and all that awesome stuff. It is pretty freaking awesome. And just for a movie like this, it's like, wow, we should get more comic book movies like Blade. And it really surprised me that this is like the one that people somewhat overlooked this movie a lot, which I can see why, because when I was younger, honestly, I didn't know anything about Blade. I was not familiar with the character at all. Actually, I didn't know he was even a Marvel character. I watched this movie, I was like, oh, cool. Vampire hunter, fights vampires. But now, as a 17-year-old and have a lot of knowledge for Marvel and comic books, it's like, whoa, this is not like any comic book movie that we're seeing nowadays. But the closest that could be like that is actually Logan, because Logan was very unique and very different from a lot of comic book movies that we have nowadays, because it doesn't feel like a comic book movie, just like Blade. I feel like Blade and Logan are on the same level as that, and that's why I say that this movie also too is way ahead of its time, but at the same time it definitely feels like a 90s movie. I also do love the fact that every time when Blade kills the vampire, when he injects the serum in them, their face gets all puffy and it starts to turn red. It starts to look like a giant tomato red gusher like thing, and it just blows. And there's no blood on Blade. Like, he's just crisp and clean. Like nothing happened. Like, yeah, blood splattered everywhere, but I'm good. I'm good because I'm a BA and I'm Blade. This movie is awesome, guys. This movie is just so darn good. Also, too, looking back at this movie, and the fact that this movie is rated R, it's also, too, very surprising. The fact that now we're getting a lot more comic book movies that are rated R, like Logan, and Deadpool 2, and many others along the way. And this is, like, one of the first Marvel movies, and the fact that it's rated R, it should get a lot more credit nowadays when we get movies like Logan and Deadpool, because there's like, oh, comic book movies can be rated R now. But I'm like, have you guys seen Blade? Because to be honest with you guys, this movie put comic book movies on the map. I know movies like Spider-Man and the first X-Men put comic book movies on the map, but Blade really gets overlooked when it comes to that. It should get a lot more credit. Yes, I enjoyed the first Spider-Man, I enjoyed the first X-Men, but those movies, in my opinion, don't really hold up as well. And to be honest with you, I like Blade a lot more than those two movies. And I'm a huge Spider-Man and X-Men guy. I am. And I'm not the biggest Blade guy, but comparing this movie to those movies, I gotta go with Blade. I'm sorry, I have to. I mean, that's me. And looking back at this movie, one of the things I was really hesitant about is the villain. Was he going to be cheesy? Was it going to be over the top? Was it going to be terrible? He was none of that. Deacon Frost is a BA, and he has to be one of the most underrated comic book villains I've ever seen. Comic book movie villains. Like, this guy had a clear motivation. This guy had an agenda. His plan was clear. He wanted to get the elderly vampire's blood and Blade's blood to combine those to create this blood god. So, like, all humans can be vampires. He'd be a full vampire. Like, this guy was pure evil. Like, this guy, he may be like a cocky douchebag a-hole, but he goes from cocky douchebag a-hole to just straight up like, I'm gonna bite your neck off, dude. Like, you're dead. I'm sucking your blood. That's how much of a goat Deacon Frost was in this movie. And he's also a villain that I actually really enjoy as well. Like, a lot of people should look at Blade and look at Deacon Frost, look at Stephen Dwarf's performance, and be like, wow, this guy's actually pretty good. Whoa, he's pretty intimidating. And I actually think he's more intimidating than most of the MCU villains, with the exception of Loki and Killmonger. Deacon Frost is actually like probably one of the most like underrated villains, not for comic book movies, but for movie villains in general. Like this guy, he wasn't messing around. Like really, I can go on and on about Deacon Frost, but I can't. But all I gotta say is rewatch Blade and look at Deacon Frost's character and see how much of an imitating psychopath that guy was. I mean, like, Jesus, whew. But I also do like Frost's sidekick, sorta, Quinn, this big guy who always come in from time to time and just Blade kills him and he comes back, rips his arm off, come back, gets a new arm, come back, then Blade eventually kills him at the end. He was funny, he was hilarious. I think Quinn is pretty cool. And since this movie is 20 years old, I should talk about the twist. The twist near the end of this movie where Blade finds out that his mother is still alive, but his mother is a vampire. She's working for Deacon Frost, and Deacon Frost was the one that bit his mother while giving birth to her. That twist I was not expecting at all. I honestly forgot all about that, and when I rewatched it the other night, I was like, oh crap! That I did not see that coming at all. I'm like, I gotta give kudos to this movie. Kudos to this movie for being very risky, and they did a good job with that. But you know, like I said before, this movie isn't perfect. This isn't a flawless movie. I do have some issues with this film. One, the CGI. Yes, the CGI is that's what to be expected with movies like this, where the CGI doesn't hold up very well. They look like PS1 graphics, and it don't look all that good, to be honest. And towards the third act, before the big fight between Frost and Blade, gets sort of boring. Like it drags on, almost like it feels like almost forever. Like, oh my god, we're gonna get to the cool stuff. Come on, come on, come on. I'm starting to get bored now. Movie. It was getting boring at that point, to be honest. And also the character Pearl, this big fat vampire. Yeah, nah, not my Blade movie, no. But other than those problems, I really enjoyed Blade a lot. And I feel like this movie should get a lot of more credit, and people should look back on this movie, especially when we got movies like Black Panther and Deadpool now. They should look back at this movie, but I know some will look back at this movie like, that was okay, whatever, and they'll watch like something like the Deadpool or whatever. But you have to remember, without this movie, we wouldn't have Deadpool or Black Panther or Avengers Infinity War. This movie is the reason why we have comic book movies now. This is the godfather, or I should say the daddy, of comic book movies. Blade is what put comic book movies on the map. Then we have Spider-Man, then we have X-Men, then we have Spider-Man, and then so on and so on. We had a continuing cycle of good comic book movies. And not so good, I will say. I'm going to give Blade a B+. B for Blade, I guess. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my review of Blade 2. And as always, guys, if you are new to my channel and you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.